Good morning and welcome to Inspirational Vitamins. Your word for your week. This week the word is leadership. But before I begin, I just wanted to, as I always do every Monday morning, to ask you, how was your week? How did you make it out in last week? Yes, we do start a new week, a new work week for most of us. And I do believe, as I've always said in my previous recordings, that this week will be better than last week. And you can make it better, obviously, regardless of what you may have dealt with last week. Some of you may have overcome some very difficult challenges, and perhaps some of you are still dealing with that. But this week is a great week. I'm excited to be able to broadcast to you this morning and to share with you your word for your week. The word is leadership, the action of leading a group of people or organization. I like what John Maxwell said. He said leadership is influence. I want to begin this morning by a quote by Ravi Zacharias, a great theologian, I should say, the late Ravi Zacharias. He had just passed a few weeks ago. Great man who certainly have known a lot about theology and certainly have done well during his time. And he wrote a book called Deliver Us from Evil. And here's a quote from that book. Ravi said, "One of the most dangerous and terrifying trends in America today is the disregard for character as a central necessity in a leader's credential." I think that was so profoundly stated, because certainly as we talk about leadership this morning, it requires character in order for us to be effective leaders. In the last 4 months, we have been plagued as a country, as a nation, with two pandemics, the COVID-19 and the protests of police brutality and injustice that have led to deaths of thousands of lives, destructions of properties, and what some would refer to as a civil unrest. In the late 1980s, there was another crisis moment, which was referred to by the federal government as the war on drugs. Drug dealers would use cocaine to make crack, so poor communities would be able to afford the drugs, because cocaine was only at the time for the elite. They are the only one that could afford to purchase it. New York City was the epicenter at the time, with robbery and murder escalated unprecedented numbers. I want to share with you just a little bit of statistics here during the 1980s or late 80s, that what happened during the war on drugs. This was reported by the Daily News recently in 2017. So here's a little bit of it. Crack ripped apart families the same way it did neighborhoods. Domestic violence reported increased 24% in 1988 and were up 150% since 1985. The dawn of crack, child abuse, and neglect petitions shot up 19% and were up 156% since 1985 within a 3-year span. Some kids never get a chance to be rescued. A record of 133 died of abuse and neglect. More than 5,000 were born with severe ailments caused by their crack pipe mothers. They call them the crack babies. I remember personally walking on White Plains Road in the Bronx, and cars would literally stop beside me and ask me if I have any drugs, or I have any cannabis, or some dope. That was what it's like back in the 1980s or late 80s, not only in New York City, but elsewhere in the country. Why am I sharing this morning? Well, I'm sharing it because the word for this week is leadership. And if there's ever a time that we need leadership and leaders, it is now. I know some of you are saying this morning, well, it's just me, myself, and I don't lead anyone, as far as I'm not in a position that I am leading a group of people. But I want to remind you that leadership begins with you. It starts with you as an individual. So start with your home, start with your family and yourself. So when you're placed in a position that you have to lead, you not only will be ready, but you already have practiced those things that would allow you to do an effective leadership role if it so fall in your lap. We are desperate, I believe, for genuine, authentic, and organic leadership. And that leadership starts with you. This week, as you pursue your week, think about small things that you can do that may lead others around you. Doesn't have to be significant. It doesn't have to have a group of people that you manage or you lead. You don't have to run an organization, a company. No, all of those are part of what leadership is required. But as an individual, as a person, leading your home, leading your family, leading yourself, take those steps towards making sure that you're doing what is necessary. As I mentioned earlier on, that there is an element of character that one has to exhibit in order for them to be effective leaders. So as you go through this week, think about it. Ask yourself this question: what am I doing to lead myself? What am I doing to affect the people around me that may look to me, even though I may not be their leader, but somehow I may be the default person that may have to take that role? And I guarantee you, if you conscientiously think about that, every step that you take, whether it's the grocery store, whether it's your job, whether it's going to the post office, wherever you go, if you think about yourself that, yes, I am a leader in my own rights, and demonstrate the qualities that would allow you to be effective, you will look back a week from now, maybe a month from now, maybe a year from now, and realize that, yes, what I've done was one of the things that leaders need to do if they are going to be effective. Do me a favor, as always, share this video with your friends, your loved ones, and those that you have connected with on social media. And join me next week, same time, same place, for your word for your week. Until then, be a good leader.